Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it and we'll talk about it inside. Hey scrappers, Tom here from the iScrap Map, and I can't believe we're only 2 weeks away from Christmas. So we'll talk about what the holidays do to some of the scrap prices. But one thing I'd like to throw out there before we talk about any scrap, I donate to St. Jude Children's Hospital. That's our charity of choice. So I know we had Giving Tuesday last week, but if anyone's ever looking for a good charity to donate to during the holiday season, that's one of, if not the best in my mind. So let's talk about scrap for a little while. What have we seen in the markets? You know, I never love the month of December when we do a lot of these reports because they're really, they become different because people are selling things. People have Christmas loads that they're cashing in. Scrap yards are doing year-end inventory. Companies are getting ready for holiday shutdowns. Consumers have or are already buying products, which means the commodities that were needed months ago to make those products, to get them ready to put them on the shelves and then get sold. So we'll talk about how some of the markets kind of work and how those things happen. But don't forget, we're live right now, 11 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday, December 11th. So if you have questions, please ask them. And if you ask them and we're not live, not a problem. We'll answer those, you know, during the week or in our live session next week. And next week will be our last live of this year going into, you know, we're not going to be open on Christmas and then New Year's Day. So this will be our last one, but we will have some 2024 recap and 2025 preview videos coming out just to give you an idea what's going on with these markets. Now, I'd like to talk about steel prices because I'd like to start with one of the worst pieces of news first and then move gradually to other things. But we have seen steel prices continuing to go down. You know, we saw a little good news here or there. I saw that the rebar futures were increasing slightly, but that's not moving towards steel prices going up. You know, we saw the Chinese imports of iron ore down, and there's been news outlets that have reported that China has been dumping thousands of tons of steel into the markets in preparation of the tariffs and the new Trump administration coming in because they think that they're going to start to get hit. So these are things that we're watching out for. But in addition to that, Canada, Mexico, and China are the U.S.'s three largest sources of materials, of metals and minerals. So when we start to see these tariff talks going in, you know, China, Mexico, Canada, how the tariffs are going to work themselves out are still to be seen. Now, if they are levied, we do expect a short-term decrease even further than we're at on prices. But I thought we already hit the floor, and here we are seeing reported prices for things like light iron, $70, $80, 4 cents a pound, 105 a ton, 130 a ton. You know, we're not seeing strong prices, and I don't really expect to see any more even through the month of January. Once we start to see the Trump administration coming in, it's going to be 6 to 8 months before policy effects, increased energy outputs really hit the markets. It's not like, oh, you're sworn into office and things change. No, you're sworn into office, then you need to implement things. Then those implementations need a run room, and that's what happens throughout the year. So those first 100 days are great for policies, but we don't really expect to see major changes for 6 to 8 months of 2025. So that's just something to keep in mind. But hopefully the energy increase that the country is looking to do will decrease logistics and transportation and then increase steel prices. But we'll see what happens with the tariffs. A lot of that's going to be baked in here, and we're just not sure how and where that's going to work itself out. But things that I do know, I keep reading about construction. And the majority of the construction I'm reading is on the residential side. So sure, you might need rebar for the concrete footings and maybe for the elevator shafts, but the rest of these buildings that they're building are wood and plywood and 2x4s and I-beams and some I-beams are, you know, made of wood and some are just a thin layer of steel because it's residential opposed to commercial, so the weight being held. but not a lot of steel is being used. Even the server farms that are being built, the data centers that are being put up, and the warehouses that are going all over the place, I'm seeing these concrete walls. So what does that mean? Thin pieces of steel inside, but not steel siding. And concrete is generally less expensive to maintain. So they would rather put that in and have less maintenance than sitting here power washing steel, having it rust, corrode, panels flying off. And then if you think about the roofs are going to be steel, right? But you're not going to have a lot of weight. You're going to have some rebar, you're going to have some I-beams and some sheets. But again, we're not looking at massive amounts like building skyscrapers. So when we see these things taking place, we just know that the steel market is not there. So one of the rare times that I've said to hold scrap cars might be now for a couple of different reasons. Steel prices are at or near record lows for the last 5 years. Catalytic converter prices have been even for a number of months. So even keeping that cat on the vehicle. And also, if you think about scrap cars, you can kind of have cars on a property and not have them looked at compared to piles of metal. So just things to keep in mind. If you are looking to hold on to anything, that may be something that you're looking for. You can see some scrap prices for cars in the $160 to $170 a ton range. So the markets are still there because of the non-ferrous that's baked into them. But if you want to make money on something and you do cars, this might be an area that you have a little run room with. Now we're going to talk about some other things, but I want to go into copper prices. We saw a very slight increase of about 1% or 10 to 15 cents per pound in the last week. One of the real reasons that we saw that, again, the Chinese are talking about these tariffs, but they're also talking about injecting money into their economy in the form of a stimulus and that's one of the reasons we saw some of these copper prices jump. To be frank, I'm very happy with where these copper prices are. I expected them to be about 50 cents a pound lower. That's why I haven't had Bear Bright or number one tubing in any of my hold recommendations, because I think you should be getting it in and getting it out. So if you're holding it, waiting for that magical $5 number again, could it happen next year? Sure, but that is such a far-fetched prediction to be able to make. I never thought it was going to happen this year. And sure enough, in May for a 3-week period, prices went crazy. And we'll talk about that in our 2024 recaps. But I would continue to sell my ABCs, my aluminums, my brasses, my coppers, and my steels other than cars. And then the only other item that I would continue to recommend holding is your stainless steel items, with prices in that 30-cent range for 304 stainless and nickel prices at such a low level. That's going to be another item that you will benefit from. And listen, 6 months from now, if the markets don't move again, you didn't lose anything, right? And if you do, it's 30 cents to 25 cents. We're not looking at huge losses. So this is one item that I would continue to watch out for. 33 cents a pound as our national scrap average right now. Just not going anywhere. If you can see, it's really about flatlined itself. We did have a question that I'd like to jump into. And again, if you have any questions while we are live, please ask them. By all means, I'd love to answer those during our live session. But someone said, pinned versus pinless CPUs, is there a value difference? I've also heard of precious metals like iridium being baked into these chips. Can you shed some light on that? I would love to shed some light on CPUs. Thank you for asking. Pinned versus pinless. Right off the bat, you have pins and then you have no pins. So there's going to be more gold on the boards with pins. So that's an easy win when you look at CPU chips. But if you don't know how to identify or learn about these CPUs, we have videos on that. And if we don't have enough videos, we'll make more videos. We've made them on CPU chips. We've made them on memory chips. And we now have a buying program where you can mail those things to us and we'll buy them. But you can see a clip of a video here. We have some different types of CPUs just that you can check out, learn about. We have pictures and prices online as well. So check those out. And the second part of the question, Iridium being baked into these chips. Yes, iridium is baked into some very specialty chips. I'm just going to read this quote real quick that I found. Iridium and other rare metals may be present in certain high performance or specialized CPUs, but are not a significant driver of value in most recycling measures. So we're really, when we look at CPUs and memory, we're looking at silver, we're looking at gold. What are we looking at? Oh yeah, we have silver, we have gold. Those are the two primary metals that we're looking for from a recycling point of view. A tertiary metal would be copper, because a lot of these CPUs, as you can see in this video, have these silver type backs. Those are just copper backs that are plated with either a tin plating or something like that. But that's the third metal that you would be able to find from the different CPU chips. So thank you so much for that question. Now, other things that I'm looking for that may affect the markets, right? I can't scrap a Bitcoin, but I can follow a Bitcoin. So what we've been looking at is a lot of people have been moving away from gold and more towards these digital assets. So, it's going to be interesting to see how that affects the electronic recycling in the coming years. I'm not a crypto holder. I know that there's value there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects the markets. I don't think there's going to be a direct correlation when it comes to scrap prices, but I do think that we're going to have some people talking about it like, oh my gosh, my scrap yard's going to start paying me in Bitcoin. No, I haven't heard of that anywhere, but people are going to start saying that online. So we're going to continue to watch out for that. So, I don't see much run room there. I'm looking at more of a precious metal demand, silver, brass, copper, gold, to go into a lot of these chips, to be put into a lot of these server and data centers being used for AI, Netflix, Meta, or anything else that really has data flowing through it. Google, Alphabet, whatever they're called, right? Other than that, scrappers, when I look at the overall markets, I had one other question. Is there a market for hybrid alkaline batteries? They're a negative value. So if you ever have these alkaline type of batteries that are based, they're going to cost you money to recycle. That does not mean you should be throwing them in the steel. That does not mean you put them in the garbage. Oftentimes, your local towns, cities, or municipalities will have a recycling method for these, and it'll be baked into the taxes, because you don't want to go to a scrapyard with something that they charge you for, and you definitely want to learn about positive versus negative pricing, because I've charged customers to get rid of things that cost me money to get rid of because of the negative scrap value. So any of these hybrid alkalines, I wouldn't put much merit or pricing into them. You may be able to charge someone to get rid of them, but my best advice, make sure you have an outlet and a price to get rid of them yourself before you commit to picking these up. Because if they're a pickup and now you just have them sitting there, that's not going to help you at all. We talked about copper and brass prices slightly going up. Aluminum markets, another solid run for aluminum in the last week. Markets relatively unchanged, down less than 0.5% week over week. Sheet aluminum prices still very strong with our reported numbers. 50 cents, 55-cent range, really good pricing there. I expect that to continue because, like I talked about last week, aluminum is in residential, commercial, aviation, and these are things that we want to be able to continue to see promoted. And then the vehicle market will be something interesting to see what happens next year. A lot of people don't have, huge amounts of desire to buy these electric vehicles. That's why we're seeing things slump, but they are starting to buy more cars, and more cars are involved with more aluminum, which is a great thing to be able to go. We have any questions, Virginia? No questions right now. So if you have questions, ask us below. Next week is our last live update. So if you want to tune in next week on the 18th, that will be our last live report of the year. We'll have those recaps and previews for 2025. But catalytic converters flatlined week over week. Platinum, palladium, rhodium, they're just doing this hover right around the same. It's just like, just balancing up, down, up, down. We've had pretty much the same price for like 4 months in a row when it comes to OEM. So it's like, I got to talk about it, but there's not a lot to report on right now. And we're hoping that that changes next year as well. So scrappers, my name is Tom. I love to hear your questions on scrap. I'd love to see your prices posted. Please like and subscribe to our channel where we're always posting videos weekly on how to make more money with your scrap or how to explain different items so you have a better idea on what to expect when you go into scrap yards. My name is Tom. Today is Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. Until next week, scrappers, happy holidays, and I'll scrap you later.